Welcome everybody to my sit down and talk with Luke. I don't have a name for it yet. Help me think of one. Glad to have you. I would have a coffee cup in front of me, but I had my coffee this morning. And you know, if I drink 2 cups of coffee, I kind of get a little jittery. So just imagine I have a coffee cup in my hand. Welcome. I'm so glad you joined me today. So I'm just gonna introduce myself. If you don't know me, my name is Luke. I am 26 years of age, 26 years young. I am married to my beautiful wife, Samantha Barbosa, who is amazing. She's my rock. We're both leaders in church, and we have a dog named Dwight. He's a pug, a black pug, very cool, very annoying sometimes. And yeah, that's me. I've been married for almost going on 2 years now, which, believe it or not, to me feels like forever, a long time. And so I wanted to talk about being young and married. If you are a bachelor, if you are a young married person, if you've been married for a million years, hope you can take something away from this. But yeah, I wanted to share my story. So to catch the attention of everybody out there, the topic that I wanted to start off on is sex. You heard me right, S-E-X. I remember when I was like 13, if I heard the word sex, it was like saying it was crazy. Well, I guess it could be technically the same thing. Anyways, so... but you know, obviously out of respect for my wife, I'm not gonna go into weird detail or anything like that. Me and my wife were both virgins before we got married, and for getting thrown into a system that we both had no experience in was very interesting. And I'm just gonna put it right out there at the top. Sex is just as amazing, if not more amazing, than people paint it out to be. Sex is also completely different, at least for me, than what people had painted it out to be. You know, movies, people's conversation, married guys, whatever. Some guys are like, yeah, I lasted 17 years in bed, like, yeah, whatever, you know. But yeah, sex is a huge part of marriage, obviously. And the viewpoint, the faith point, the lifestyle that me and my wife come from is that we save ourselves till marriage to have sex. And so we didn't have sex before that. I might have given her a kiss, you know, but we didn't have sex before that. And so coming into this beautiful new world of each other's bodies was amazing and completely different than what we had thought. And it's interesting because me and my wife had premarital counseling, which some people are like, oh, what's that? Premarital, it sounds weird. What it means is that we had counseling from our pastors to help us understand what we're getting ourselves into. If you haven't done premarital counseling and you're engaged, I definitely recommend it, because a lot of the things, including sex, that we had come into, at least in the first year of our marriage, our minds had been opened and we had been saved so much heartache and trouble because we had people pour into us. And so I'm just gonna say this for all the young guys out there. If you're a young guy and you're dreaming of sex and you've been saving yourself, you're a virgin, or you haven't just, you know, I don't know, had the opportunity, whatever. Sex is beautiful, man. It's amazing, and it's God's gift to men and women, I believe, that, you know, are in a union, that are in a marriage, I believe. But more than that, I thought that sex was just, it was mostly physical, and a little, probably, I thought it was like 79% physical, and what's that? It's 21% mental. And I didn't really take into account the spirituality aspect of it, because we're not just body, we're not just mind, but we're also spirit. It takes all different parts of me to be a good husband to my wife. It's not just knowing all the tricks or the weird names like the Texas or whatever kind of names you have, or whatever names people tell you of things to do. It's not just that. Sex is definitely something that you both need to agree upon, and something that, as a young man, you, especially if you haven't had sex before, I should say, you won't understand until you get there, because everybody is different. And so that's why when people kind of generalize sex, it's still wrong, I think. You know, hi. Dude, that was so awkward. Right in the middle of saying sex 17 billion times, some lady knocked on on my gate and was like, hey, I have a package. They delivered it for you. It's they left it at the wrong place. I left it on the doorstep. I was like, oh. But maybe that was God telling me to not go too deep. So here's what I really wanted to say about sex, is that it's not what I expected. It's not what people told me it is, and especially it's not. You can get obviously the basic mechanics of sex down like that. You learn in I don't know, middle school nowadays. People learn it before that, whatever. But knowing a person, satisfying a person, loving a person, and not just caring about your own needs, it's so much different, because sex is not only something that you enjoy, but it's something that and like I was saying earlier, with mind, body, and spirit, it's something that replenishes you, something that refreshes you, and something that can probably make or break some people. That's why sex is such a big deal for so many people. And sometimes people put it in a pedestal that I don't think is righteous. But yeah, man, sex is something that can really, really make or break a relationship, a marriage. And so that's why it's so important for you to have, for me, I'm not gonna say you, it was important for me to have a proper understanding of sex and what it meant and the significance of sex as a young man before I stepped into marriage. Because, and I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm just gonna say this. I'm just gonna say it. Don't try to stop me. Sex can be one of those things that you think you know a lot about it, and you think that you're a man if you know how to be sexual, or a woman if you know how to be sexual. But the truth is, only a real man knows how to please a woman over a lifetime. I'm not trying to be grotesque, but even anything could please a man or a woman in a moment. But to please someone for a lifetime, you got to know more than the Texas, buddy. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna leave it right there. I don't even know what that means. Don't Google it, because it might be something weird. I just came up with a random phrase. So, for the love of all things that are good and holy, do not Google that, because I might get you in trouble if someone looks at your screensaver or screen. Anyways, so let's move on. The next topic that I was trying to write down things that I wanted to talk about, and there was so much that I couldn't fit into a single moment or video, but I thought these things were important. The second thing that I want to talk about was becoming dependent. And as a young man, I would say independent. Now, here's the truth. I was living with my parents, at 23, and I wasn't like completely independent where I was like, like living on my own and all stuff like that. Some people are, and kudos to you. That's awesome. But for me, I was independent in the sense that I made my own schedule. I made my own money. I paid my own bills, and things like that. Obviously, I had help, living at my parents' house, of course, which is total steal. And it really helped me save up for marriage, which is great. And I thank them for that. Thank you, mom and dad, if you're watching. But I had to learn to become dependent on someone other than myself. I had to unlearn independence in a way and learn dependence on my wife. The Bible talks about cleaving. A man leaves his family and cleaves to his wife. I live next to my parents. I live next to my brothers and sisters, a lot of them. Only my sister, lives a little far, but we still keep in contact very much. And it's interesting how the Bible talks about leaving your family and cleaving to your wife, because for me, it truly was a culture shift. It was a change of mindset for me, and a change of not only scenery and having cool freedoms like sex and being able to eat whenever I wanted and whatever I wanted, right? Or order my own groceries. I don't know, whatever it is that I did. But it also meant that my dependency on my wife was not something that I wanted necessarily, or just wanted, but something that I needed, because trying to live a life of intimate relationship with someone, like I said, like my wife, is so hard when when there's no trust there. And for me, trust is a huge deal for me and my wife. And I think an issue with a lot of young men nowadays is that we're so independent and we don't want to trust anybody, that when we get into a relationship, we find someone, they're beautiful, they're kind, they're everything, they're funny, they're everything we want them to be, right? But we still have that mindset of singleness, of dependence, and independence, and of doing things my way. But the thing about that I learned in this past almost 2 years of marriage, which is not a lot, and some of you people that have been married for a long time, like, you're drinking your tea, laughing at me, this young man. But for me, it's a big deal, because I had to learn how to separate my mindset, separate myself from my old mindset of Luke only, and being Luke and Samantha, and not only depending on her for physical things, which is obvious, but spiritually as well, mentally, You know, taking care of our own home, it's a big deal, and it's a bigger responsibility than I had previously thought. Now that I'm in my own household, there are responsibilities that are mine and mine alone. I can't share with my brothers, can't share with my dad or whatever, and I have to depend on my wife to do the same. Where it might not be the trash, but it might be the dishes, or it might be cooking, or it might be whatever. And I have to trust her to do that. And she has to trust me to hold on to my responsibilities, or else our house is gonna be kaput, as they say, not in my country, but in another country. My house would be a disaster. And so there's definitely a give and take of not only needs, but also responsibilities that I had to learn to depend on her for, because my mom wasn't cooking no more. You know, she's beast. My mom's a beast cook, but she's not gonna cook anymore for me. I'm not gonna go to her house every day to eat food. You know, I was used to her cooking, and now I have to get used to my wife's cooking or my own cooking or whatever. And so becoming dependent on my wife and on trusting her to be the woman, to be the queen of my household, bro, that it took a little time, to be honest. And we're still working it out. We're still learning to become these codependent creatures, trying to make for a better life, for you know, make ourselves better Christians and make ourselves better people, and hopefully parents for our children in the future. And becoming dependent it's hard when you have a selfish attitude, and that's something that I had to drop real quick, is my selfishness with my wife of like, no, I want to watch movies all the day. I want to play video games all day. You can't stop me. I worked 8 hours, babe. I worked 8 full hours. You know, like it's like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so dependence is, to me, it means to trust the person that you're with, and depend. And here's something that I hope you could learn from me, or my mistakes, whatever you want to call it. But you can learn dependence before you get married. You know, sharing responsibilities, especially when you're in the engagement season, you're planning to get married. That dependence is gonna, you know, you're gonna learn that real quick. So becoming dependent to me was a huge deal, and still is. And I think that it's something that every young man should learn to know, that like okay, you know how we all know that death is gonna come at some point. Like everybody's gonna die, right? We all know that. Well, I think that every young man should prepare to start learning to depend, or to trust. Some people don't like the word depend because it makes them feel weak, but to learn to depend on someone other than themselves, especially if you're someone that grew up, let's say maybe you were in church and your family wasn't, or maybe you didn't really have a family and you learned to do things the hard way, and now nobody can tell you any different. It's not going to work, bud or sis. It's not going to work in a relationship. I can tell you right now, learning to be dependent, learning to trust people is integral to a healthy and happy marriage, and something that I learned from my parents who've been married for a billion years. No offense, mom and dad, but you've been married for a long time. And something that I had to learn from them, about being selfless, and becoming dependent on my wife, allowing myself to trust allowing myself to depend on my wife, and to let go of my rights as a man, and her letting go of her rights as a woman, learning that we belong to each other, and there is a unity that happens from the day you get married till the day you die together, and that unity, it's God ordained, and if you fight it, you're just gonna crumble. Learning to be dependent on each other. So this next portion, I had a couple questions that I want to ask, but I'm gonna bring on my big brother. It's actually going to be pretty amazing. I wanted to bring him in because he's a young married himself. He is the youth pastor of Shift, our youth group at church. He's a producer. He's a drummer. The guy's everything. He's a new dad. Been married for a little while longer than me. I thought it'd be really cool to bring him on and ask him a couple questions. So surprise, surprise, here we go. And so the next topics were, with the first one I want to throw at you was expectations versus reality. And I really want to hear what you have to say, because I think we had a conversation about expectations of, you know, single guy to being actually married and differences. And so I really think that it's a topic that a lot of people can learn from. So if like I asked you, like, you know, if I asked you about that subject, you know, the expectation of being married versus the reality of being married, what kind of cool insight could you give us?
Well, I think that the thing about being single, first of all, as a young man, the one thing I'm speaking for myself here. The insight I feel like I've gained is that when I was single, you know, it was easy to just get up and go. And I think that's the obvious. Everybody always talks about that. Everybody that's married, you know, the expectation when I was single was that when I get married, it's going to be just as easy to get up and go with my wife now. And it's
Mm.
going to be it's going to be quick and easy to, because in your mind as a single young man, you think we're going to have sex every day. And my house is going to be clean every day. And I'm
Every
just going
guy
to somehow
have thought that.
huh?
Every guy before they get married thinks that.
Every guy thinks that we're just going to have sex every day, 20 million times a day. And like, life is like, there's this easy mentality that I think that we have, because when you're a young man, it is kind of easy I'm not saying being a young man is easy, but getting around to certain functions in life, there's a lot less weight to pull. It's just you. And so my expectation was that it was going to be that quick and that easy to get things done within my marriage. Again, we're just going to get up and go and have in and out whenever we want, which can happen. We're probably never going to fight. My expectation was that she's always just going to be cool with whatever I want to do, wherever I want to eat. Again, whenever I want to have sex,
it's definitely I would see it as, the way I thought about it was, I brought in my single mindset into marriage, which could kind of what you were saying.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest things for me, and this to me is, if I say nothing else, I think the main thing is my expectation is that she would have the same exact values and understanding and wisdom that I would have.
Can you say that one more
time?
time?
The truth is,
for the people in the back, say it one more time.
I thought, getting married, that she would have the same values and understanding and life experience that I would have. And so, as we were married, come to year 2 or 3, as I'm trying to, be a youth leader, youth pastor, there are some moments where we kind of bump heads because she didn't come from my life experience. For example, I'll give you an example.
Yes, please.
Being raised in a pastor's home, you're on the go, or you're ready to go at any time. Some young person needs to talk to you about something. Someone needs, you need to go pray for somebody. You need to give a Bible study. Or you got to go help.
And you have to talk about it now. You have to talk to them about it.
Yeah, exactly. Or you need to set up microphones or go clean up the church. Whatever it might be, like it's always, you're ready to go usually. And I figured before I got married, my wife, she'll be right there with me, ready to go and set up microphones at 12 a.m. So I think the approach that my wife came from was like, wait, we have to be at church like almost every day, and you still want to have sex like whenever you want, as much as you want, whatever, and you still want to go hang out with your friends, like so.
So true, man.
The expectation versus the reality was a big wake up call, especially in year 2. Yeah. Especially when life gets real, because when you're a young man,
I'm going on year 2,
and it's great. It's and what I've learned is also, like, people's experiences are different. People's timetables are different.
Yeah.
And people would always tell me, dude, once you get to year 4, you're going to want to kill each other. Once you get to year 2, or you have a baby. And the truth is, people are different, and people's experiences and maturity levels are different. So they respond differently in different seasons. From what I could say though, is I would say around year 2 for us, is when my expectations were definitely met with the reality of, okay, hold on one second.
Wow.
Our upbringings are totally different.
Wow.
We're completely different. For as similar as we are in certain areas, that kind of was a learning curve for me. Mm-hmm. And so adjusting has been work. Adjusting has been work, and coming to a good middle ground where we say, hey babe, look, we have ministry. We have a kid now. We have all these things going on. How do we find a place where we're both content and we're both happy while still doing the things God has called us to do? Mm-hmm. That the work in doing that's been the biggest plot twist for me, because I just thought the 2 shall become one flesh, and we are just going to become one once we have sex. And it's right. Becoming one is a daily task almost. It's a daily, it's work, Mm-hmm. And just like denying yourself and taking up your cross to follow Jesus is a daily thing. Being married is much of the same as denying myself. The Bible says that husbands ought to love their wives as Christ loved the church, unconditionally giving up everything. So daily I have to give up my desires to just be on my phone, or my desire to go set up mics at 12 a.m. or whatever. And we have to find a middle ground. And that work was the biggest wake up call for me.
Amazing. You know, the one thing came to mind while you were talking is that like sometimes I feel like our wives become almost a balancing, like, and I don't want to use the word weight because I don't want to make it sound negative, but they balance us in a sense. Like for instance, let's say the setting up mics at 12 a.m. thing. You know, that's easy for a single guy who loves the Lord and wants to do something, you know what I mean? But when God expects of you to lead your household into salvation and to in a healthy lifestyle, you know, setting mics at 12 a.m. on a consistent basis can ruin you. You know, because, you know, you take the time to, you know, sleep, be in your bed with your wife or whatever.
Yes.
So would you say, and maybe I don't know if there's a way you could expound on this a little bit, and then we'll move to the next topic. But like, how have you seen your wife, you know, where things that maybe like I said, when we were younger, we thought like, oh, she's just trying to hold me back or whatever. But how have you seen your wife actually balance you out? And now that in retrospect, you see like, oh, dang, maybe setting up mics at 12 a.m. never had to be the case. Maybe I could just do it on a Saturday at 10 a.m. or something like that. Like how have you seen her, I'm going to use my words carefully, her needs balance your daily life?
Man, that's good. Her needs have really caused me to mature a lot. And in saying all this, I'm not throwing shade on marriage or my wife.
Of course.
What I want to get to is the reality of her saying, "Hey, look, you can't be setting up mics at 12 a.m. You can't go out with your friends anytime you want."
Right. Exactly.
All these different things has caused me to I feel like rise to a new level of wisdom in my spiritual walk that I didn't have before. Before I used to be like, "Oh, that guy's not setting up mics at 12 a.m." or look at them, look at, you know, and to me that type of mindset was spiritually immature. And my wife has you know, what we're talking about right now has really helped me to mature, you know, organize myself, all these things that are important to being a good husband. Before, you know, I would just kind of go and come. When you're a single man, you go and come as you want. When you're married, for myself, I've had to put myself on a schedule, which means that my prayer has to be on a schedule, that my going to sleep has to be on a schedule, my waking up has to be on a schedule, and it's really implemented a good system for me. And I know this sounds kind of practical and boring.
No, it's
but
good.
It put my life, my personal life, my wife's needs, the things that concern her in our marriage, it's put me on it's balanced me by just kind of, I don't know if the right word is systemizing my life, organizing my life. It's brought so much organization where there used to be a lot of chaos, and that chaos used to produce a lot of anxiety.
My goodness, man.
All those options, you know?
So
you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, exactly.
When you have so many options, and you know this creatively, you know, when you're writing a song or doing whatever you're doing, when you have so many options, it's a little overwhelming. You're just like, I don't know what to do. And that used to be me as a single man. But her needs really helped corral all that stuff into just a streamlined lifestyle for God. Really.
What a revelation. I think it kind of goes back to the single man lifestyle. And I love that I think the right word is discipline. It disciplines us to better use our time. The Bible says, it says, redeem the time because the days are evil.
Yes.
And a lot of times when I think single guys, myself, before I got married, when we heard the word structure or system, it was a scary word. It was like a bad word, like, you know, like we don't talk about that, you know what I mean? But now I realize, because I have a structure and a system in my home, I'm capable of handling more in my life. And so that to me, that was beautiful what you said, because it kind of shed a light on I was like, that's why it's so important. Like I said, people can be structured probably most likely without a significant other, maybe whatever. But the drive in me has kicked up a couple gears to be structured for the sake of my wife, because I love her. And I'm sure obviously vice versa for if there's any women watching this, for the sake of your husband, that need really to satisfy your significant other, it requires you to be selfless and to let go of certain things and to structure your life in a way that's more conducive to productivity in both of your lives. So my goodness. Let's move to the next topic. But man, people should be paying us.
Praise God, man.
joking.
Okay guys, I promise I'm not trying to pull a fast one on you, but I had to cut this video into 2 parts because it was so long. I didn't want to cut too much out. I wanted to keep it nice and short and sweet, but yeah, there was a lot of good stuff that Matt was saying and some questions that I wanted to answer at the end of the video, and I just thought it'd be best to cut it into 2 parts. So this is the end of the video. I'm so sorry, but I promise you I will upload the next one very, very, very soon. I'll let you know. You can follow me on Instagram. My name is @Jukestagram, and I'll announce when I release the second part. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the watches and the likes and the subscribes if you can help it. And I'd love to hear from you what you had to say on this first part, and we'll let you know about the second one. Have a great day. Bye-bye.